Do not trust your brain, period. Your brain lies to you all the time. You have to understand that we are not passive observers of reality. We are narrators, okay? We tell ourselves stories all the time, and those stories are based off cognitive biases, emotional residue, trauma, past wounds, but they aren't necessarily true. They're just stories. And if you're not aware that your brain is constantly lying to you because it's trying to protect you, not because it hates you, but it's trying to protect you, you're going to fall victim to your brain. And your brain doesn't care about reaching your potential. Actually, it's the opposite. Your brain wants to take the safest route because that's predictable. And all it cares about is survival. So it won't really do the extra work for you to become greater than who you are right now. It doesn't care about reaching big, ambitious goals. It just wants you to be comfortable. But right now, it's almost impossible for you to actually be comfortable because you know that you have potential inside of you. And when you don't act upon reaching your potential, it's eating you alive. It makes you feel uncomfortable when you do nothing because you know you can do more. And you know that you're meant for more. When you imagine yourself being the highest version of yourself, that version does things that are so different than what you're doing right now. But to get to that version, you need to do uncomfortable things right now. Let's say you want to be a well-known public speaker. It's not going to happen if you spend every day at home doing nothing and watching TV. It starts by recording yourself on YouTube. It starts by doing presentations to schools or communities. It's putting yourself out there and network. It's not easy to do so. But if you're not aware of what your brain is telling you, it's going to give you tons of excuses. It's going to let fear, shame, resentment, all these things hold you back because it's going to want you to stay comfortable. And it's so tricky because when you're comfortable and you're being mindless, it kind of gives you the impression that you're safe because things are predictable, like you kind of know what your life looks like, and it almost feels peaceful, but it's not. I know it's not, because when you're being mindless and not intentional about what you do, you know that you're robbing yourself from the future that you want. It would be different if, let's say, you've been on your grind and then you're doing intentional rest where you're trying to recharge. That would be different because you're choosing to do that. But if you're choosing to be lazy as an escape to doing the work that will get you what you want, that's not the same story. That is actually painful because you're wasting your potential. Now, if you want to grow as a person, which you probably do because you're listening to this, you have to understand that growth starts with self-awareness. You know that, okay? And if you want to be more self-aware, you have to understand how your brain functions. So I'm going to give you 4 things that you need to be aware of for you to not let your brain control you. Because once you know that your brain does that, when you're in that motion of responding to what your brain tells you to do, you can actually stop that pattern. And change happens once you start disrupting your routine. So this goes exactly into the first thing I want to say. Your brain is wired for patterns, not progress. Your brain wants to conserve energy. It wants to repeat what's familiar because that is the best way for you to have the best chance of surviving if, let's say, a tiger comes and chases after you. That's how we became humans today because we were able to waste energy when it mattered, aka when we needed to actually survive, and conserve energy when we needed to just sit still and be ready for when danger came. But we're not in those days anymore. We're so lucky nowadays that we can actually reach our potential. So you can disrupt your brain's desire to conserve energy because there's no point of conserving energy for what? You don't need to survive anymore. You're safe. In fact, you have the most opportunities than ever in history to create a legacy, to do more than what your situation is right now. Like your parents were not even as lucky as you are right now. We are so lucky, but it's also a trap because we're also in the age where it's the hardest to do things because we are so distracted and so addicted and just flooded with instant gratification. So it's really hard as well. But if you decide to disrupt the pattern, you won't give power to your brain anymore. Your higher self will take control. Your higher awareness will take control. So if your brain wants to repeat what's familiar, it doesn't care about you making progress. It just wants you to stay stable. But that doesn't mean you will transform. It's literally the opposite. If you want to transform, you have to do things differently than what your brain is wired right now. Because right now, let's say you are anxious, you are self-critical, maybe you're stuck in some sort of thought patterns and loops. Your brain will always default to that when hardship comes around because that's the only way that it knows how to deal with it. So your brain literally says, this is what we know, so this is what we'll do. And the only way that you can change that is to understand that one, your brain does that, and two, to not do what your brain usually does, okay? Now, another thing that your brain does, and you have to be aware of this, is that it overreacts to fear. It's, again, programmed like that. Just kind of how we were programmed back in evolution where we needed to be fearful of predators. Our brain is still wired like this. It's going to magnify the risks and underplay your strengths, okay? A good example is if you ever hear your brain whisper to you that you're not ready, that you will fail again, that people will judge you, it's a way for your brain to try to protect you. Because again, it wants to keep you in the known. It wants to keep you in the familiar. And it will do that even if it's unfulfilling, even if it's lonely or depressing. It will do that because at least it knows what they know. At least it keeps you in your comfort zone and your life will just remain the same. So your brain will feel comfortable. If you want to disrupt that, the solution is to act before you feel ready. Because I promise you, things always feel scarier before you act. It always feels scarier before you actually do the thing. Because when you do the thing, you realize that it really was all in your mind. It really wasn't as scary as it was. Kind of like posting on YouTube for me. It's like always, it used to be so scary and I was fearing what people say. People don't care. People go on with their lives. Lately, I've been going to concerts. I love EDM music. So I've been going to concerts and it's really kind of reinforcing that everyone there is just in their own world and dancing to the music. And it's really not about other people. It's really about you enjoying the moment. So I dance however I want to dance because everyone's kind of just feeling themselves. Like it's not about looking at other people and see how they're dancing. Everyone's there because they are their own main character. So whatever you fear doing, do it for the plot because no one really cares about you doing great or failing, whatever. Like the thing that matters is you reaching your potential because that's how you're going to impact people positively and people will respect you. And the people that hate on you are not your people and they just are not worthy of your time anyways. Now, the third thing is that your brain will always favor the loudest voice, not the truth, but the voice that is the habitual voice. For example, for me in my life, I've got huge transformations in the past months. And one of the things is that I am closer to God, okay? I don't love talking about God on YouTube because it's so new to me and it's so deep and raw and shattering. And there's a lot of emotions related to that. And I just don't quite feel super ready to talk about it much. But I can give an example here because it's very relatable and it fits perfectly with this example. So something that's new to me is hearing God's voice. The voice inside of you, like the Holy Spirit that is super wise and guides you. But my brain is not wired to hear that voice right now. My brain is wired like my lizard brain, the lowest vibration of me, the version of me that is scared, insecure, wants to make excuses. That's just how my brain is wired, and I have to unpeel that. I have to not listen to that, because that is not my truth now. But that doesn't mean that because my truth now is God, that automatically my brain will shift and will listen to truth. No, my brain will always come back to what's it's used to. So I have to continuously train my brain to think differently, to listen to God's voice instead of my lizard brain. And the way to go about this is you need to have practices that support your new way of thinking. So let's say you want to start being more self-aware. It's doing practices that allow you to be more self-aware, such as journaling or meditating or having real, honest one-on-one conversations where you truly listen and ask questions. We do a lot about that in my community. So if you are lonely and you're looking to have those type of conversations with people, just join the community. It's free. It's the first link in my description. Now, the fourth and final thing that you need to be aware of about your brain is that your brain confuses emotions with evidence. Remember earlier I said your brain is a storyteller? It tells stories. It doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's true, but it is your job to edit the script. Your brain will think, oh, I'm feeling insecure, therefore that means I am not enough. That's not true. It's okay to have emotions. You need to acknowledge them, but that doesn't mean that you need to default to what your brain automatically defines the meaning of it. Now, I'm not telling you to be a robot and not feel. Like, even if you do feel insecure, that's okay to feel that. Like, that's your body telling you something. Maybe it's a good cue for you to be aware that you've always thought something that might not be true. Or maybe it is true. But the thing that you have to understand is the feelings that you get are signals. They're not absolute truth that mean anything. You're the one that can kind of decide what you want to take from those feelings, and they are real and worth noticing, but it is your responsibility to have discernment into how you want to react to them. They aren't wrong for existing, but just be aware that, like I said earlier, brain lies to you. It tells stories, and not because it's there means that it's an absolute truth. It could literally be a limiting belief that you've held on to because it helped you survive throughout your life. Maybe in your childhood, it was good for you to be a certain way, but today it doesn't serve you anymore. It's actually holding you back. So when you have those feelings, that's why I love journaling so much. You can kind of analyze how you feel, and you don't overanalyze it. Just try to be mindful about why you feel a certain way. And is that just something that's repetitive and familiar, or are you ready to disrupt the pattern? You have to keep consuming knowledge that help you expand your mind, such as videos like mine. Hopefully they help, but you also have to act upon it. So change only happens once you get information and you gain awareness, but you have to practice it over and over again until you become that new version of yourself. So just to finalize that fourth point, feelings are not masters. They're just messengers, okay? So don't let your brain automatically create a story from the feeling that you have. Just try to acknowledge your feeling and then decide for yourself what you're going to do about it, and try to disrupt your routine. Now, I hope these 4 points helped you become more aware of how you could have been a slave to your brain, but your brain is not supporting that higher version of yourself. So you cannot trust your brain. You need to trust something that is way more eternal, and that's your soul inside of you. That wise guidance that's literally living inside of you. You cannot use that physical brain that's just literally lying to you because it's just not serving you anymore. But the thing is, your brain can be on your side. Your brain literally can be your best friend if you reprogram it. And I have tons of videos that I've done in the past about that. But if you want to know more about this type of content, just let me know in the comments and I can talk more about this because I love this topic. Now, on this note, I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for your investment in personal growth. I hope you start doing things differently so you can be built different. I love you so much. I'll see you very soon in a new video. Mwah.